On your Topcon slit lamps that have the halogen bulb, it could be the 3E, the 7E, or the 301, or the 3G, that have this type of illumination cap where it has one pin here and the other pin is underneath that you slide on and twist on. Oftentimes these pins get misaligned, they get bent, and they don't make a good connection, and it prevents the electrical voltage from getting to your bulb. These pins can move fairly easily, so if they're not put on right, or if they get loose, they may get out of alignment, and then they will bend, and then it's not making a good connection. So this is this type. Now the 701 halogen is similar, somewhat similar, but it's different. It's got a rubber pad here, and the little pin is different. This area is different than the halogen 3E. So you have a 701 and the 7E, 3E, 301, 3G has this mark right here. 701 might have a little dot. And their pins down here are different. This one has a much wider, this one has a thinner one. Here's the pins. This is the wider one. If we hold both of these similar, the pin direction are opposite. The 701, the pin hooks in this way. That way. Whereas the 3E, the pin clips in this way. We're going to focus on changing this pin today. If you'll notice, this is a new cap. And you'll notice how the end of the clip goes very near comes right close to this gap. As close as the clip has to go as far as you can that way. Doesn't quite come to this gap, but almost. So that's what we want to end up with. Here's a cap. Here's a cap where the pin is disfigured and it's not going close. Not going close to this edge, so it's not pushed in enough. It's got to be pushed all the way in. And then here's another cap that's wrong. It's going that way. So it's going in the wrong direction. And so this clip is going in the wrong direction, so it's not making the correct contact. So you have to remember which way it goes in. This is wrong, and this is wrong because it's not fit in all the way. It's got to come close as far as you can to this gap. So we're going to replace this pin with another pin, a new pin. Yes, we can, if you don't have another pin, you're going to have to use your old pin, but you'll have to try to manipulate it. That's what the pin should look like. If I hook it up to a ruler, it only sticks up about 10 millimeters. As high as it goes. And this is the shape. So you'll try to have to bend yours in a similar shape. It's flat on the bottom, starts coming up, and it turns like a 45-degree angle. This only goes up about 2 millimeters, and then a 45-degree angle, and then it's fairly flat on top. So you're going to have to try to bend your defective pin like that. And you may be able to do it while it's on your cap, but you may not be able to do it, so you may have to take it off. So if we were going to replace it, you have a brass connector here that's on your connector pin. Yeah, this brass connector. It screws on here, and that's what comes out here. But under here you have a 3 millimeter nut and a 3 millimeter lock washer under there. That needs to be there. So to take it off, we'll just unscrew it with some needle nose, start unscrewing it. And we're not going to take it all the way off, we're just going to loosen it so that we don't have to try to thread that washer and nut back on. We just loosened it enough to be able to get our clip out. So here's the existing clip in this defective one, and it's supposed to look like this. This is the good one. This one is bad. So we can go ahead and try to form this one more like that, but we're not going to right now. Okay, so we have our connector with on the pin already still connected. Still connected. If it came apart, you could just screw that on first and then that on later. But we still have our washer in there. Now, say you had to take it all the way off. And okay, say we took it all the way off. Underneath it, you have this lock washer. You have this lock washer and a 3mm nut. Those are going to fit inside this groove. And the nut is just wide enough that it fits inside this groove so that it won't turn when you're trying to tighten the pin up. So what you could do is maybe get either you can get some needle nose. Here's something that might be helpful. On the lock washer, you have this the groove. Well, try to put it so that the groove is right on this side of the hole, because you're going to be pushing the clip under it, and if the slice is away from it, from the direction, it might go underneath it easier. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get a little Q-tip swab, put it underneath the hole. I'll put the washer on. Okay. I'm going to put the nut on. Going to let the nut fall into the space. And then I'm going to put my finger on the nut as I'm pulling it away from that little toothpick cotton swab. Hold it in place while I just going to screw it on a little bit, just enough to make sure the nut is holding. And I'm looking underneath, and it looks like my washer groove is on this side, which is going to help me. And I don't want it to be too tight on the bottom, because I've got to get my spring clip needs to be able to slide under that washer. So I need to make sure I've got some space in there. Okay. Then I'm going to grab my clip or spring. It's called the official name is a spring. I called it a clip. Spring clip. Get my needle nose. And I'm going to position my needle nose so that I'm going in like that. I'm going down and into this groove. So I'm grabbing it up here on this wider spot at an angle. Then I'm going to try to slip it under that lock washer. It may take you a few times to do it. But as you can see, the end of the spring clip is very near this opening, so we know we've gotten it underneath the lock washer and the nut, and it's flat. If it's not flat, that means it's on top of that lock washer, so it needs to be flat. Once we have it there, then we can go ahead and tighten our pin. And the nut's going to stay, it's not going to move because it's in that groove. Tighten it with some needle nose pliers. If you had put this in first before you put your connector, if you just put the pin on first, you would screw it on as much as you could, and then screw your connector onto that, and then tighten this pin. So that's tight. Make sure that it's tight. If you grab it up top, you should be able to hold it firm. And now this pin is at the right angle, distance, and it's at the right position, as far in as it can go, and it should be in the correct position to make good contact. So this one is not bad anymore, although it's got a crack. This really isn't any good, but the pin is in the correct position, like this new one is. Just want to show you the parts. This is the connector, the pin. Here's the lock washer, and the nut, and the clip, spring clip. Those are the parts that were involved in this video. And these are the part numbers. You have the connector, the plug pin, spring washer, the nut, and the spring.